Welcome back. You're watching Power Talks with Santosh Shah. We are in conversation with the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Mrs. Hisila Yami. Honorable Minister, during the 10-year-long revolution, you lived the life of a mother of a school-going daughter, the wife of the leading rebel thinker, and a forefront revolutionary yourself, and that too a woman. How was life for you then?
It's very enriching in the sense that while we were at war during 10 years of a People's War, I managed to kind of empower my daughter through email, through writing letters, and many times I always left space for my for her father to write something whenever we are together, because it was very important that she gets a right message from both of us. And usually, as you know, fathers have less time for their children. I made it a point that some space is always left for him to write back to the daughter, who is always not with us, many times not with us. And then being a wife of a senior leader, and myself being a politician also, many times the spillover effect of two-line struggle between the top leaders also gets spilled over to me. So from that point of view also, it was very interesting, how it affects sometimes positively and sometimes negatively, and how you deal with it. In one way, people may think that I'm very lucky, but people should also know that there are many restrictions that are put on me because I'm in that kind of a position, you see.
Now you're in the government yourself. Back then, the then government had placed a price on your head. I mean, how was that feeling like, having a price on your head?
That's exactly. I mean, it's very interesting because now when I travel in my car, at one end, my driver is actually a PLA member himself, who's in fact handicapped by a bomb explosion in his feet. So at one end he's there, at the other end we have got Nepali army. So sometimes I just, and the way they talk with each other, because at the ground level, there is a lot of similarity in terms of problem, in terms of aspirations, in terms of feelings and all that. If I go back to, what we did, 10 years back, 10 years of People's War, I think what we did was, we are very political, we were very sure, we were very motivated to end this 240 years of monarchical state. We are equally committed to the peace process, because now it is the period for consolidating what we have raised, the issues, and that is very necessary for tourism, you see, because tourism and peace process are complementary.
Yes. It was your father, Mr. Dharmaratna Yami, who inspired you to think differently, to be a rebel, or to think of leadership. What is one important lesson or advice you took from him?
He was also a minister once upon a time. But, one thing about him was that he was very bold. In fact, that boldness was not very well accepted. What I have gained from him is that boldness, that boldness of saying yes and no and all that. He was actually, you must know that he was a poet, and he was also very much aware of his Newari identity, and although he had no formal education, but he's blessed with nearly more than 30 books that he's written, and very enriching literature that he's left,
You're an avid poet. I recently got to read one of your poetry called Diversity is Destiny, that in fact you wrote in the flight to Berlin,
yes,
when you went to promote Nepal tourism year 2011. Now, when do you get time for literature?
Unfortunately, now I don't even get the time, because in fact I took advantage of my flight time, you see. Actually, I got this idea much before itself, when I was flying in ultralight aircraft, when I myself felt being heavenly above and seeing, and I already felt that, you see, we already have Switzerland in the air, but we need to have it on the ground, you see.
And as a forefront women leader, who has led revolution, who is in the government right now with the leading party, who's won the election, the women population in Nepal has a lot of expectations from you. When we look at the remote areas, we see a lot of women are beaten up by their drunken husbands. Alcoholism contributes to a great deal to domestic violence, where children and women are beaten up. Will you address this serious issue as well through your government?
Yes, certainly. In fact, just recently there was an article saying that women have started asserting themselves now. There have been cases of divorce also increasing. This came in the news because you see, the very fact that People's War brought women into forefront. In fact, one of the identity of People's War was women coming into forefront. So women are really now vocal. So and then we feel that in order to sustain tourism, we must go to villages, and villages in fact being run by the women. So they need to be taken into consideration.
When we look at some headlines in the newspaper, we see some of the youth wings attached to your party, especially the YCL and some trade unions and student wings, contributing to certain human rights violations or causing of strikes, which does not help the tourism. I mean, why don't we utilize the young enthusiasm and energy into something constructive like conservation of the wildlife and forest, which will contribute to tourism?
That's a very good question. You must understand that it's very important to note that our youth wing, who's willing, who's in fact now transforming themselves into now developmental workers, are being instigated by different political groups. Those retrogressive forces are trying to instigate the youth forces within our party, by doing all kinds of disturbances, and we are forced to retaliate. And in question of retaliating, they are being very, the media to some extent, as particularly the main medias, they are highlighting more on the actions of the youth forces of our party rather than those instigating youths in those parties who are not liking this changed perspective. Time and again, I feel sorry that certain medias are projecting us as demons still. And on the long run, it is going to harm them more than us, let me tell you.
Where is the solution? Because it won't help tourism
if
this continues.
Exactly. The solution is that they should give a correct picture of where Nepal is and what we are.
You were a lecturer at a university, then you transformed yourself into a rebel, and now you are a politician and in the government. Which one of this life have you loved to live?
Actually, often I have really thought, now after going through People's War and after being now a government, the minister twice, sometimes I just think, what would it be like, going back to teaching? How would I teach the same subject, And then similarly, what would it be like sometimes I even think, if situation turns such a case that I again have to be a rebel, then how would I become again a rebel? In what way? And that all that kind of things. But overall, I feel that it's an overall very dialectical, enriching experience. Now, being in a government right now as a minister, so I think I would say in totality, being a politician is very important because you get a holistic picture. And I sometimes feel, this is a message to even first world people, particularly the youth, who think that being politician is being dirty and it's a dirty game. I would just say that you're cheating yourself by doing that. So from that point of view, I would tell the youths of the world, particularly the first world, that you have to take interest in state affairs, because that is the only way now you can save the globe, you see, because now with the globalization, no country can remain separate. We are part of the whole world, and if any one country fails, it affects all the country, because globalization can bring prosperity to all or destruction to all.
We'll talk more about your works with the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation after a short break. Do stay with us.